What's going on, guys? Welcome to the David F. House podcast. I'm in the studio today with my good friend, Niina Lobbestael. Did I say that right? Lobbestael?
Lobbestael. It's close. It's good. Yeah.
Jesus. Loeb. I missed that. I should have put an E at the end of it. Okay. But Niina and I have been, we've been connected for a while. And Niina, we've kind of been in the same circles. And but finally, we coordinated at a 5-day retreat that I held at Lungo Vita. Was the first real retreat we did out there. And Niina played such an integral role of that retreat, because the work that I kind of do is very much like I'm giving people a lot of information that they've never been exposed to. And so, not that it's all classroomy, because I do like people to experience like the practice of letting go and spiritual healing treatments and that kind of thing. But it is like kind of a lot of like head work, let's call it. And then Niina, what she brought was the embodiment and like to the nutrition element of it all. And so it was just like this like great like merging of like kind of like what I do and what you do, and it created like this nice balance. And that 5-day retreat was just like, it was like magical. The people that were there was 12 people there, and it was life-changing for them. And so Niina and I have teamed up, and we are hosting another retreat, but this time kind of more together. The first one I was kind of like the host, and Niina was, preparing all this amazing food, doing the yoga in the mornings, and then she also did the ecstatic dance with us, which was an awesome practice, which we'll talk about more on this podcast today. But this time it's going to kind of be like more of a 50-50 split. And I'm really excited about this event out at Lungo Vita. So I'm like, hey, what better way to talk about this event, and just kind of like how we both kind of landed on, hosting retreats and, even having the information to be able to give to other people. And so I was like, yeah, come on the podcast. And this is like out of your comfort zone. So
totally out of my comfort zone. So thanks for having me, and for, helping me grow and push me on beyond my comfort zone. I mean, that's why we're friends as well.
Yeah, definitely. You want to have people in your circle that, help you expand.
Yeah.
Right? And so I always want to surround myself with people that, push me, and don't bring me down is the key, right?
Right. Yeah.
And lift me up. And so, and that's really what, you think of the synchronicities for you and I kind of get connected. And I've said this to you for a long time, that we're probably going to end up doing a lot together in some capacity, is what I feel. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But just the synchronicities of that 5-day event that we did together, for the 12 people that were there, it was just so, and even for myself, it was just so magical. And that's kind of like where it started for you, because you've been kind of like on, let's just call it the road of like spiritual growth or personal development or whatever for a while. But it was really like retreats that you said that kind of really like were the that tipping point where, you had a whole new level of awareness. So why don't you kind of just give us an introduction about that and, that experience?
Yeah. So I would say for myself, I had an experience, it's probably 15 years ago now, where I had my first retreat it was a 3 or 4 day. And I didn't know anything about it. I had someone from work that after this retreat, she just looked different. I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but tell me about it. I didn't even need to know anything about it. I just signed up, and wow, was it life changing. It was some really deep like inner child work, and exactly what I needed in that moment of my life, to just kind of look at, the behaviors that I was doing to kind of sabotage myself and growing and expanding. So I think that what was important though is just surrounding myself with other people that wanted to learn and grow.
Yeah.
And really being immersed in it. We started at like 7 a.m. and ended at like 1 a.m. for 4 days. And you're just in it. You're just constantly with people. And so you have the time to also practice what you're doing. So my life, my heart, my soul just like cracked open after this experience. And I just wanted to continue to learn and expand. And I feel like I've been like on this learning spiritual journey since then.
Yeah. And that's what it was. I think for most people, there's an aha moment, like when you get on this path. I remember mine was like Andrew had me doing Voyage to Betterment, and I had like cleaned up my diet, and it was really more clear. I'd reduced my drinking a lot. That was before I quit drinking, but it was like I had, went from drinking 5 days a week to only having like 2 beers a week, on Andrew's plan there that I was on. And so like I was having like all of these like kind of like emotional releases. I didn't even know what they were, emotional releases at that time, going back to 2005. And so, but the thing that cracked me open was I had a scan from Lori Wilson in Guelph, who's like this medical intuitive, and she basically, without meeting you, she'll go head to toe on you and just point out everything that's like that's ever been going on, that is going on, and that will be going on, kind of thing. And it was like, I don't know what it was, but it was just like, it was almost like I felt like invaded in some ways, but also opened up in the same sense,
Absolutely, yeah.
And that was the moment for me. I was like, oh my God, like this world, the way that I see it, is not even remotely what I think it is,
right.
And that was also similar because we were with this group of people, like when we were doing the movie Voyage of Betterment, who were all kind of experiencing the same thing. So we're spending a lot of time together. We're all focused on the same intention, which is to grow and to heal. And because of that collective consciousness of that group, right, it created a space where I could be kind of like opened up a little bit, right? Yeah. And so, and that's what we kind of observed at the event that we kind of hosted there together was, a lot of people signed up for that and they had no clue what they were getting into, right? And so, but by the end of it, we took these. I think actually we did this little exercise at the end of it where it's like you just wrote out like things that aha moments. We put them on paper and we stuck them to the wall after. And the one that was in the dead center was like perfect strangers, or no, I can't remember. It was like strangers. Best friends, strangers. I don't know. There's something.
Right.
Yeah,
well, you know what?
I have to pull the image up because I can't remember what it was. But whoever wrote that it was so perfect because it was like it was all of these strangers. But by the end of it, we were also bonded and connected because we had gone to, places that we probably haven't gone to with even our closest friends, right? And that space that's created when you step into like retreat space is just so magical. It's like it's miraculous actually. And I know that you like, after that one, I'm guessing you kind of dived in and started going to all kinds of stuff, and that's when you got exposed to like ecstatic dance and these other kind of practices. So why don't you kind of just walk us through that kind of introduction to those, how did you get from retreat one to like this ecstatic dance kind of thing, which is kind of like the thing that you're really passionate about now?
Yeah. Well, what I will say about those core people that I met 15 years ago, I would say that they're still the people that I love and I'm the closest to. They live in California. Unfortunately, I don't see them all the time, but I stayed with them, see them, hopefully at least once a couple times a year. But I just would back up for a second because one of the memorable things, as you were saying, these like perfect strangers, when we walked into that retreat, the leader said, just so you know, these people around you, you're going to fall in love with them this weekend. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I just saw the people. I'm like, I don't even want to get close to this person. Like I could just feel that, no, these are my people. But when you really see people and you are seeing yourself, like I hadn't ever felt that kind of love before. And it was truly, I could connect back to like, wow, I've never been loved. I've never been in love, because this was like, this is what it is. This is what it's about, for someone to see all parts of you and just like freaking accept you anyway, just like, yes, I see you.
And that's actually what life is all about.
Yeah.
It's like, this is like when we talk about enlightenment, like my goal is enlightenment, like, and I know the chances of me probably getting there are probably slim. But the fact that my intention is to move towards enlightenment, and the path begins to be revealed to me. And I was actually just doing a one-day event there at Lungo Vita, and there was a moment at the one day where the whole entire room, even though it was very educational because it's kind of like an introduction, it's not even like we did get into but we had this woman come up for a treatment, and I said, whoever wants to come and just put their hands on her. They don't know anything about healing or they've never even been exposed to this stuff, most of them. And they put their hands on them. Actually, Zach was there, and it was like the feeling of like just love beyond any like thought of what am I supposed to do, or the mind trying to get in there or anything. Was just like, when everyone came up, it was like chills went through my whole entire body, and like people's eyes are, welling up, and the woman is, releasing, like just finally releasing for the first time, because she was just in the energy field of love. Right. And so it was like that is what life is all about, right? When we get beyond all of our perceptions and judgments that we have of people. But it's very rare to get into that space. Like it's pretty rare, because it's in just day to day, it's just not going to happen, right? Because of the mind. It's not that, I don't want to say it's not going to happen, but it's rare for it to happen, and that's why I have my group, that you're a part of, that of just being aligned with people that are saying, hey, like I'm willing to like open up here, and the closer that group gets, the more that the opening up is happening. And when you get into that space where it's beyond judgment, it's just a safe space to come to every single week. It's like, it's really important, And so that's what's happening. Like that is enlightenment, is that state of love that you're talking about, that you experience at that retreat, and sometimes it's so powerful that you can't even talk. Right, because if you try and open your mouth, you'll just bawl your eyes out, right? And it's not like this. It's not a sad feeling. It's like it's like a happy cry, but it's even beyond that, And so that's why I kind of like hint to people. I'm like, this is what life is all about, but they're still not even really grasping it, because even if it's just for a moment, but that moment is usually the catalyst to create like real change in people's lives. Like that was the moment I experienced with like that Lori Wilson scan, was like, that was when I was like, that was the thing that I was like, oh my God, like this is not even remotely what I thought this life is all about. Right. I thought it was about, until then, was about like making money and being cool and acceptance of other people and being the cool guy and popularity and all that. And then you just see right through all that bullshit, essentially. Right. And then you get to the root of it, and then you can see beyond people's perceptions. One of the rules I have at my retreat is like, don't put people in a box, right? Which is like, you come in here and, if you look a certain way or carry yourself a certain way, talk about your profession, whatever, people immediately put you into some sort of box or category, right? And so what happens at these retreats is you see beyond all of that, right? And so the one thing that was amazing that you did at our retreat was, well, one is the food was amazing, and you have a background as a dietitian, right? And let's talk about the diet thing for a minute before we move to dance. So for me, diet is like where it started, right? It was like I cleaned up my diet. I was basically a meat eater, and Andrew kind of put me on an pretty much all vegan diet. At that time, it wasn't meant to be vegan, but that's the way I was kind of doing it. And I lost like 25 pounds in a month, and everyone was like, what are you doing? And it was because I had just never done any restriction. And then when I basically eliminated all that processed food, it was like my body was finally just like, was like, oh, thank you. And it just like the weight just came off like crazy. But then also when that inflammation left the body, that's when I started getting like more clarity as well. And so how did you move into this place of diet? Because I know you're shit, like you've just done so much, but like, what do you, how do you see food, I guess? So like, why don't we talk about that?
Well, I would say, so I've been a dietitian for 16 years now. So it's evolved and changed throughout the years as far as what my path has been. Because I would say a lot of traditional dietitians, it's about calories and fat, and yes, that's important. But I would say with my clients, I always so focus on like, how are we eating, and what are these, why are we choosing this way? These behaviors that are getting you stuck, because most people know it's not, eating carrots that are the problem. Even though I do have people that get obsessed with like, oh, but I can't have carrots because there's sugar in it. I'm like, that's not the reason why.
Yeah, right.
But really, I would say, so I was working as a chef, and I guess even more so looking back at it, the unhealthy lifestyle that I did not connect to. So most of the people that I worked with were like, you're up till 2-3 in the morning, drinking a lot. And I'm like, I would not survive this. So I went back to school. I went to Wayne State and studied 5 more years. And then that brought me to California, where I moved, and I worked mostly in postpartum and infant nutrition for many years. Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And so now, you're working with clients through that are like in insurance, and they're trying to get people back to health, essentially.
Right. So I have, I consult for a couple companies, and then I'm also seeing some clients privately.
Oh, nice.
So the clients that I'm seeing through a couple of companies here have experienced usually a brain injury or some sort of injury in their body. And what's interesting, my passion about healing and trauma is that when you're physically hit in the head, your body reacts similarly to if you've just had emotional trauma. So your gut gets completely out of whack, your foggy brain, all these things that are happening. And so, loading up your body with antioxidants and anti-inflammatory foods is, optimal for helping you live and feel better, for sure.
I think that's like what most people don't realize is that the physical is just one part, but the whole entire world is pretty much focused on the physical. So it's like you have a physical problem, and okay, you need to solve this physically. You need to change your diet. You need to exercise more. You may need to go to the doctor and get things cut out of you, and whatever that may be. But I think what you have also probably come to this realization is that there's so much more beyond just the physical world, essentially, right? And so you can give somebody the greatest diet in the world, but if they haven't resolved emotional issues that are causing them to go and eat cookies every single day, it's like all the know-how, right, won't solve anything, right? Even the experience, even for me, because I know you know my path with like food is like I experienced what it was like to go from like just a terrible diet, essentially. Like I joke that I used to think like going to Burger King and not getting fries was healthy, right? And so once my eyes kind of opened, it was like, oh my God, like this is the way we were meant to eat, essentially. And so, but I would still go back, right? And the reason I was going back wasn't because I didn't have the know-how or didn't have the knowledge. It was because there was an emotional connection to food that was, for me, it was an escape from the stress of like day-to-day life, essentially, right? And so I had to go back to like, well, where did that connection begin, right? Where did I make the link that, oh, I feel bad, I eat food, right? And then I had to heal at that level. And that was like some deep work, actually some work that I'm still working through. So it goes so much farther beyond that. And that's why I think you're so well positioned, because you have both elements, right? Because you have the knowledge of the food and what is healthy and what will nourish the body and heal the body. But then you also are diving into these emotional, mental and spiritual releases as well that are so important for like a shift,
And to me, what's amazing is even if you are eating the cleanest, organic, pure diet and your nervous system is out of whack, I mean, you're not absorbing the nutrients that you're eating. So it's a waste of time.
Definitely.
And so, one client I'm thinking of right now that I work with it's been really beautiful to work with her and see what she's been able to accomplish is, so she has had a head injury, and that has made her life pretty difficult. It has also connected her to her childhood trauma. So often when you've been in a car accident, it brings up your past. So you're dealing with both. So when she would get into the kitchen, she just feels overwhelmed with like steps and where do I even start? Because her nervous system is like out of whack. So before we start doing anything, we dance.
Oh, nice.
So we get in the kitchen, we turn the music on, and like you just fully get into your body, and then it sort of melts away. That like you don't have to think about where are you going. You're really present, and it was like she's been amazed at just seeing this transformation of like being so concerned about the thinking mind and being able to be present with movement.
Yeah. That is a spiritual concept that a lot of people have trouble like wrapping their heads around, is that you don't have to do any thinking. Like pretty much all thinking is useless. It literally is because the mind has one function, and it's to keep you safe. And so pretty much all thoughts that the mind is like spewing out at you are protections, right? Like even you, Niina, you're coming on the podcast and you're like, you're trying to think about all of the things, and you're like, oh, what are we going to talk about? You want to do what the mind has always done for you, which is your protection mechanism, which is to prepare, right? And so it's like all of those thoughts like are all a tool to prepare you for if you say something stupid, essentially, and then you feel the pain of embarrassment, right? So when we begin to recognize that, then we recognize, well, we can just be without the mind. We can just show up and make food and dance and things like ecstatic dance, things like meditation. What they're doing is they're trying to, those techniques are trying to pull you into the present moment, because 99% of us are not ever in the present moment, right? And so when you dance, when you're focusing on the movement of dance, when you're meditating and you're focused only on your breath, one of the things I walk people through is like a grounding visualization where you see yourself connected to the earth. Yes, that energy actually is flowing, but really what is happening is I'm saying, focus on your feet, focus on your legs, focus on your belly, and your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So the more you remain focused on one thing, the more you get pulled into this present moment. And so then when you get to that space, the connection or the plug-in to divinity, essentially, the universe, that's where the guidance is going to come from. And so if you try and solve problems from mind, you're just going to kind of go round and round in circles, right? And we all get trapped here, right? This is not a judgment. It's just where we all get trapped. And so the goal of spirituality is to get out of mind, right? It's not peace of mind, it's peace from mind,
right? Because
the mind is just, once you start really listening, you'll realize how busy the mind is. And when you start learning how to transcend, then the mind is like, we'll still try and like jump in there. It'll like start singing songs and be like, here I am, because the mind wants us to identify as that we are it. Right. And when you get beyond the physical body, even the emotional body and the mental body, and we connect to who we really are at like a soul level, then we start to see like, oh, okay, now we start to see all of the stuff that we bought into and how it's shaping who we are today. But the one thing I wanted to talk about was the dance, right? Because that was something for me, I'll just walk you through my experience. It was like, so when I was drinking, I would dance like a maniac, right? And when I was a little kid, I would dance like a maniac. But then there was that moment of, where I started becoming aware that people were judging me or whatever that may be. And so that all shut down. It turned back on when I started drinking, right? Of course. And then it turned back off when I stopped drinking. And so I hadn't really danced like until that practice. And so I've been sober for like 13 years, right? So I hadn't really danced like at weddings, and I feel the urge, like I want to get out there, but my mind is just it's just
You're gonna look
the
like
way it works is like, I'll be dancing, and if I feel like someone's looking at me, or if I did a move that was wrong, then I just stop, right? And so Niina walks us through this ecstatic dance practice where, you did this whole ceremony as we walked into the room, and but really the rule was you just dance. You don't look at other people, right? You just dance. And so it was such a present moment experience for me, because I had to observe the mind. Like even sometimes, because where we're doing it, I had the windows. If I would catch a glimpse of myself in the window, all of the mind would start rushing back in, and then I would just have to observe it and let it pass so that I can continue to keep moving freely. And so that was like the first time like I really moved like intuitively, because now this is actually, I was like back when I was like in like grade school. It was like, that was like when it was like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice days, right? And it was like a lot of like this fast dancing that we did, and like we loved it. Like we would go and we would all dance, and it was before I don't know, the cool kind of who's the cool kids in high school kind of came around kind of thing. And so I would dance like wild, like just all night long, like 3-4 hours at a dance. We would just dance the whole entire night, and that all went away. And it was the first time that I finally got like reconnected to like the joy of movement from that experience. And so like, I was like really grateful for that, to like, just to kind of, to go through that. Because it was actually a practice of like letting go, because I had to let go of the mind, and so that I could just be there. Because every time the mind come in, it would slow me down. It would kind of stop me in my tracks. And then I'd have to go beyond that but there was also like an emotional release happening of being like, I can't believe you restricted yourself for this long, you know, like that was the feeling that I kind of had.
Yeah.
And so it was really unique. And so like, I'm not a big tools kind of guy, you know, like I don't get into like crystals and sound bowls and all that stuff, but I do believe, and being a part of that ecstatic dance, that they're beneficial. I think you can pull something from every single experience, right? And so I'm not opposed to doing that. That's why I did it with apprehension. I walked into that same way you kind of walked into this podcast, right? And so like, I guess what I want to know is like, how did you get introduced to that? And like, how do you even go from like kind of going to a retreat to, you know, to being able to like, you like DJ'd the whole thing and you're like, you just got right into it. And now you're like, you really believe in the process of kind of like releasing the body. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. That's a loaded question, I guess, but
right.
let's walk me through it.
I would say there's probably when I, you know, there's always like these many moments that get you to this one spot, but I would say, if I would think of a few key moments in my life, one being, so I grew up in a super fundamentalist church where dancing was not allowed. But as a young kid, I would go into my parents' had this sauna. I would lock the door. I think I was like 4 years old. And I would turn on this like rainbow bright dance music. And I can still like connect to that like little part of me that was like, I love to do it, but I was afraid that like I might get caught. So there was that piece that happened, but there was still, I would say throughout my adult life, there was like shame that I don't know how to dance. Like I didn't have that, like I didn't grow up as a dancer. I would enjoy dancing. And then I moved to California where ecstatic dance is pretty popular. There's even like dance church where you like go and you, instead of, you know, like there's no pews and you just do a lot of movement. And then there was this really key moment where during COVID, I was living in Italy where, so during that time I was pretty isolated. And then I found this ecstatic dance group of people. So when I was living there, I felt like I wasn't able to communicate well. I don't speak Italian.
Right.
So I was feeling super lonely. Like, how am I able to get seen and heard and really have a good conversation? Hadn't happened in like several months. So I show up at this ecstatic dance and we do this like eye contact exercise and then movement. And I was bawling by the end of it. I just felt so connected. And to all of these people that we did not use any words at all. It was just our bodies moving together in space, feeling connected to freedom, which the world was like so not feeling free for me at that time. Yeah. But there was just something so magical about that moment that I felt like, okay, I got to dive into knowing more about this. And so I took a course and took my DJ certification and so.
I just not even know you can get certified. If there's a certification, Niina will find it. Yeah, that's amazing. What an amazing, experience to learn how to get connected beyond words, right? And it's like that's like this kind of like the theme of what we've been talking about in this podcast is that, you know, there are ways to connect beyond, just our regular methods of connection, which we think is sitting in front of someone and talking. Like, and that it's funny that you mentioned that eye contact piece because I've been involved in like numerous retreats where you have to stare somebody in the eyes, and it's like the most uncomfortable thing that you'll ever do. But if you can get beyond that discomfort, it is like one of the most like magical things that you can do, you know, because you just really start seeing that person and they're seeing you beyond the discomfort. And then even beyond like sometimes like the laughter, like I don't know if that's ever happened to you or you're staring at somebody's eyes and the giggles just start coming and you can't shut them off. And so like I've had multiple experiences where I'm doing that eye thing and I just can't stop laughing. Like if I just look at the person, we just die laughing. And that in itself is actually healing as well. But then when you get beyond the discomfort and get beyond the laughter, then you get to that connection that we're talking about, right? And so, like the overall arching theme of this whole entire thing is that it's like we have to really experience that connection. And most of the time it's going to be, you know, for the first time. Like I think I would say people like parents get it. Like, they feel like that unconditional love. And I think kids also feel that for their parents. But somewhere along the ways of life and all of our programs and beliefs is that it gets blurred. And one of the things that I connected to was that, you obviously know my story, but my mom passed away when I was 9. And so I was still in that unconditional love phase of, my mother kind of thing, kind of getting out of it near the end, right? Because I was getting into like this, more aware state before you're unaware. Like my daughter just loves me, right? It doesn't matter if she gets upset or whatever, she loves me, right? And I know that, right? But there will come a time where that will get clouded by her wanting to go out and me saying no, and so I was just getting into that stage with my mom, but I think it was still like pretty like unconditional at that point for me. When I lost my mother, that was like where I learned to put up walls to like never let anybody in again, right? So even with my wife, it's like I didn't ever really truly fully let her in. And thankfully, because of that, because of her, I guess, unconscious awareness, she was able to open that door for me because she could see how I would always close down those relationships by saying like, by just ending them essentially, right? Giving people outs, here's a fight, just break up with me. Like that's what I would always say, right? That would eventually lead to me breaking up with those people. So she didn't allow that, right? And so that's what led to us getting married, right? So I opened up to her more than I opened up to pretty much any relationship. But then the second I had my daughter, I was reconnected to that unconditional love again. And immediately the fear of losing her now started playing through my mind. So I had to go through the work to get that out of my mind, right? But the point I'm making about this long-winded story is that there's only really 2 moments of that connection, unless you come to a retreat or you make the intention to reconnect to that connection, right? And so there's only 2 moments. It's like when you're a kid and you pretty much forget about it because you're young and you don't really remember, or when you have kids. And then even then, if you're not conscious of what is actually happening when you have kids, you may let that unconditional, beautiful feeling of unconditional love pass because you're annoyed that the kid is, my 1-year-old was up all night long in the middle of the night last night and we got like 3 hours of sleep. And so you can get wrapped up in all of that and miss that unconditional love. But it's like, that is like what life is all about. And so retreats, inner work, all of this stuff gives us the opportunity to connect to all of that. And that's the stuff of like what like life is really made of, And so you have kind of like been like you call yourself like a retreat junkie essentially, right? It's like, I remember that's what you had said before. So you have probably got, like, how many retreats do you think have you been to over the course of, this work?
Let's not count.
Yeah.
Gosh, even just one days I would say that, COVID, when they didn't have them in person, that was like the most amount of time that I had gone without connecting or going to a deep dive of some sort of event. And I felt it. I feel like that's when I was like, I need to join your group.
Yeah.
Because I could really just feel it in my body. I want to be around people that want to make their lives better and are dedicated to being honest with each other and like showing up fully. So,
that's the thing that happens at retreats that this is not happening anywhere else. So people get like into like this, you do create like this, like this sense of like, hey, I need to reconnect again. Like I need to connect with people again. And that is like what happened over COVID. And even now, even after the aftermath of COVID is we live in like this Zoom world, and, like before COVID, like with respect to clients, is like, I wasn't even really taking clients that I couldn't take in person. Right. And now that when COVID, I was like, oh, they opened the door. I'm like, oh, well, now I can take clients from all over the world, which is great. But at the same time, though, it's like there is something different about being one-on-one or in group with people in person. Right. Like we do our Thursday night group online, but it's like if we all got together, and we're in the same space, there is something that shifts there. Right. For sure. And so I think that's like one of the bad things that have happened from COVID is that you can almost feel this sense of like people like disconnecting more and more, right? It's like people are so busy now and I just read this book, 4,000 Weeks, where it's just like, the more technology we have, the more things that we just end up doing and putting on our plates, and we get out of like this, like just simple, just hanging out with people. It's like, I don't hang out with any of my friends anymore. Everything,
like pulling out your phone just to like, oh wait, but I can look that up, and like wanting to be, like the conversation.
It's like the connectedness of the internet and the phone and all that has made us less connected, which is so ironic, right? And so that's like, why we created the space out there at Lungo Vita, was because, when you go to Lungo Vita, one, there's no Wi-Fi, right? So it's like you can't even get on, and two, ironically, there's like the cell phone signal is like not great out there. So it's like you're not really going to be able to get on a call. If you have to talk to someone, you probably might have to get in your car and drive into town, kind of thing, right? And so it kind of like, I don't want to use the word forced, but that's essentially what it is. When you get there in that space, you're kind of like just forced to put your phone to the side, right?
Well, it's creating the ideal environment, really, because I think that sometimes you just don't know what it is that you need to have this type of healing. Yeah. And I think you just, unplugging, bringing you to this beautiful place, bringing the people around you that are there to support you. I think it's just, it's magic.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk quickly about our event. We've kind of titled it Thrive, and the reason that we titled it that is what I feel is that you can go through this in your entire life and just live. You can just go through the steps. You can, this is most of the people that I work with. It's kind of the people that have like checked all the boxes in life. Like they've made the money, they have the nice house, they have the kids and the wife, or right? I mostly work with men, but I work with women as well. The husband, they have it all. But they're still like they're not thriving. They're just they're essentially just existing, and probably there's a sense of like, is this all that life is about? Like, is this it? Am I just is this what Bree goes through this all the time? And I try and explain to her, no, it's not. There's so much more. But it's like, is this it? Like, this is what she says, which I think she articulates well. It's like, am I just going to work, coming home, hanging out with the family, watching Netflix, going to bed, and doing it on repeat? And I can see how people get wrapped up in that. Like, is this all there is? And then we start like living for experiences, right? We start like thinking, oh well, we got to travel, we got to see more, but it's like, even all of those experiences, it's like we are still searching for our happiness or our joy or our connection out there, right? And the real connection comes from what you and I have been talking about, like where you really truly connect with another human being, and you recognize that we are something greater than just body and mind, and we are interconnected to all. Like when you really truly experience that, you're in it, you're like, oh, this is what life is all about, right? And so the way I kind of see this retreat is to show people that path of like, hey, there is way more to life than just making money and even just meditating and all that. There's making money and like kind of checking boxes, right? There is this state of love that you can connect to, right? And so we're going to do that in multiple ways. One is we're going to kind of give the path of like, hey, these are the steps that, I don't like the word steps because it's pretty much non-linear, but this is what I did to kind of get me connected to this again, right? So I kind of show people that. Then you are going to do the food, which is like, the food was so amazing at the 5-day. And what is the theme of like, would you say of the food, the overall arching theme, like that you kind of did there? Like, it was like, just, I don't even know how to describe what you did. It was so good.
Well, really focused on antioxidant rich foods. Yeah. It was a vegetarian.
Yeah, pretty much veg.
But I think just really caring for people while they're there, because just the practice of really making nourishing food for people. Usually I would say a lot of people are rushing and you're eating fast food, or you're not sitting down to really make something that's nourishing for your body. That piece, you don't have to think about it. Yeah. So it's really a way to start you on a good path, because you don't have to make any choices about it. Just notice, how do you feel after this weekend? You have now just nourished your body and mind in such a, optimal way that I imagine that it would be easier at that point to start making some changes to your diet after you've really been given all the tools and you've actually been living in it, and you can assess that like, oh wow, I actually feel so much better.
Yeah. And that was the one thing from my experience, because I was eating the food the whole entire time on the 5-day. I was never hungry, right? And I still felt like so light all the time. Like there was never this like heaviness after a meal, right? And I had no like even sugar cravings or anything. And I think it's because you were just, well, one, you're making it with love, which I think is probably the most important. But two, is just like such a great combination of nutrients that, I felt like I was just like never nutrient deficient in anything, right? And so yeah, when you clear that space, food wise, you open up the door to like start experiencing these emotional releases. So then the other thing that you're going to do, which is another Niina box, is you're going to do the yoga, right? And so like you even also you're a certified yoga teacher, right? Another certification. So you're going to be doing the yoga every day for the people that are at that as well, right? Yeah. And so, and then the last thing is going to be your own experience that you've had, and then also the ecstatic dance is going to kind of be like the grand finale of the whole thing, right? And so, yeah, I think it's going to be one of the best events that we've done on Govita. I really believe.
I mean, I have goosebumps thinking about it. When you said, I don't know what the words you just used, but like when some people think like, is this all to it? I have those thoughts still, I totally do. And when I get connected to being able to do something like this, that I feel like my heart and soul are like completely in, like that 5-day that we did, like it filled me up for probably a month or two after. Like, I mean, I still get excited thinking about it. So I just know that, and the healing that can transpire from that just like ripples out. So with this few people have actually reached out to me from that, just kind of talking about ways how their lives shift. One of the girls is actually wanting to do retreats herself, and like, just, it's amazing just because they were so inspired, and their mind open to just so many different things.
Yeah. And I think that's it too. It's like just having the willingness to expose yourself to, this greater awareness, right, is like the first step. And so once you have that willingness, then you're just going to be led, towards whatever it may be. So it's like always been like, one of the cornerstones of like kind of what I teach is like, all you have to do is have the intention. So it's like, what is the intention? Like my intention is enlightenment. And because that I have that intention, like I'm just constantly being exposed to like new things that are moving me closer to enlightenment, right? Even just, getting reconnected with you is like that experience of ecstatic dance. It's like there was a release there that had to happen for me to kind of like make a shift, And so I guess what I'm trying to get at is if you have any interest and you're listening to this podcast and you've listened to this long, it's like, okay, well, it's time to get in line with the intention to take the next step and to put yourself, I think this is like probably the most important thing, is like into the field, right? It's like you're stepping into the field of unconditional love. You're stepping into the field of healing. You're stepping into the field of connection. And when you are just immersed in it, right, there's no other place you can do it, like kind of besides a retreat, it's just like, because it almost takes you like the first day to finally kind of like settle in, And so the event that we're doing is a 3-day. And so by the end of the Saturday night, it's like, I know for a fact that group is going to be so bonded, and it's like nothing you'll experience kind of like anywhere else, really even with like the people closest to you.
Totally.
Yeah.
When I think of my first 3-day, before that, I had probably gone to therapy since I was like 18. Yeah. I'd done a lot of work, but that 3-day was like, therapy, like 10 years of therapy in a weekend.
Yeah.
That was just, it was so transformative that, it's just amazing what can happen. And
that's it. Yeah. And like, I think I'm really glad that you brought that up, because, one of the things that I do is I do like spiritual healing treatments. And I really, truly believe that a 20-minute spiritual healing treatment can be more productive or more transform your life more than 10 years of therapy, right? And it's because we're getting to the critical. We're going beyond the body, the emotional body, the mind, and we're connecting right to the soul, right? And so when the soul heals, everything else heals, right? But the thing is like the thing that blocks us from really truly like getting all of the benefits of that is the mind wants to discount it, right? The mind wants to be like, well, it can't be that easy. Like, you know, I need to undo all of this stuff. And so when I take clients one-on-one, I do a lot of like therapy, let's say, because I know that that's the mind needs that to be ready to be exposed to like the opening up. But like really, I could probably eliminate all the talk and just do a 20-minute treatment on people a week. And it would probably be more beneficial than an hour or hour and a half of us talking through it, right? But I get it. I get the way the mind works. So it's almost like we have to kind of like, not trick, but we have to prepare the mind for what's to come kind of thing. And so that's actually kind of good because that's kind of what we did on this podcast. It's like we just exposed people to like, hey, this is what might happen if you haven't put yourself into the field in a retreat space, whether it's our retreat or any retreat. It's definitely something that we have to all experience so that we can like finally feel that power of like connecting.
Yeah. And just, I don't like when I did mine, like I said, I didn't know even what I was signing up for, but because I trusted this person so much, I knew whatever you're doing, it's exactly what I need. And so even we're talking about like being seen and being like, maybe there's people that don't really resonate with like, I don't need that, but I didn't even know what I didn't know. Like I came there and the feeling of being fully seen and known, I think it's pretty rare. I think it's not something that we really experience in many relationships that, you know, at least for me, that wasn't my experience growing up. You know, so I just feel like it can be pretty transformative. And I know that, you know, together we work to create like a safe space to like allow, and I've seen you work. I mean, just, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. I think it's going to be one of the best events that we put on this year for sure. So yeah, let's wrap it up there. And, you know, it was great to have the chat and to kind of, you know, show people what's possible. Cause like, you're kind of like a person that's like kind of just done it all, you know, and like, you know, like you have, like you just.
And learning. I mean, I don't at all admit that I know, you know, like I just love to continue to learn and surround myself with people that are maybe a step ahead of me so that I can learn from them as well. Yeah.
Like, you know, like, I mean, we're talking about like all the certificates that you have on your wall, but you're still dedicated to like growth. Right. And that's one of the things that happens in spiritual growth is that, I mean, we talk about the scale of consciousness and the critical level of 200. Like when you get to the level of courage, life really becomes like really good, like so good that most people stop. And so to have the intention to continue to look within, that's the key. Right. And so that's like, you know, what this event will be all about. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, Dave, so much.
Yeah, it was great to have the talk. And you can get all the details of Thrive, our event that's coming up in September. Is it September? Is that what we said? No, when is it? August?
August.
I got another event in September with my buddy, which is the exact opposite of our event, which is like a man event. And we're going to lift weights and run and do all kinds of, you know, man stuff. But awesome. Yeah, it's going to be great. But ours is September 13th to the 15th, I believe. Yep. And so all those details for that event will be on the Lungo Vita website. So it's just Lungo, LUNGOVITA .com, lungovita.com. And you can also just DM me or Niina. What about you? Where can they find you on Instagram? Or
Instagram. Yeah.
What's your Instagram?
At Niina Jane. And Niina is 2 eyes.
Niina, 2 eyes. Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Awesome. Okay. Thanks a lot, Niina. Thanks for taking time to listen, guys.
Thanks to you.
Yeah. And if you enjoyed the podcast, just don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We'll see you again next Sunday.